All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're jumping headfirst into a really powerful and frankly intense prophecy from the book of Isaiah. We're going to unpack this vision of divine judgment, but also purification, and the pretty stark choices that a nation, and maybe even we, have to face. So, the heart of this entire passage really comes down to this one verse, Isaiah 125. This single sentence is our roadmap. It talks about a process of intense divine purification. But what does that even mean? What in the world is dross and tin? Well, let's break it down. So, first up, we have to explore this incredible metaphor of the refiner's fire. And this is so important because it's not just about punishment. No, this is a process that's designed to separate what's pure from what's corrupt. Okay, so these two words are everything. First, you've got dross. That's the gunk, the worthless stuff that rises to the top when you heat up metal. In this context, it's a symbol for all the fake religious shows, the empty rituals that God was calling out. Then there's tin. Back in the day, some shady metalworkers would mix cheap tin with silver to rip people off. It's a perfect picture of Judah's corrupt leaders who are watering down justice. And you have to understand, this is not a gentle process. Not at all. Smelting needs crazy high heat. We're talking over 1,000 degrees just to burn away all those impurities and get to the precious metal. So when Isaiah uses this language, he wants you to feel the intensity of the judgment that's coming. This is no slap on the wrist. This is a full-on refining fire. Now, while Isaiah was talking to ancient Judah, you can see how this theme of a purging has been seen as a pattern throughout history. The Assyrian and Babylonian exiles, the Roman destruction of Jerusalem, those fit this pattern of judgment pretty directly. And later on, some have even seen echoes of this same theme in other major tragedies, always pointing out how a small remnant seems to survive the fire. But here's the thing. The fire isn't the end of the story, not even close. The whole point of this incredibly intense process was never just to destroy. It was all about restoration. And this right here shows you the why behind it all. Just look at the contrast. Before this purge, Judah's leadership was a mess. Rebellious princes, buddies with thieves, everyone taking bribes. But the promise here in verse 26 is a total 180. A return to righteous judges and wise counselors, just like they had in the very beginning. The goal was for the city to once again be called the city of righteousness. So here is the bottom line, right here in verse 27. Judgment isn't the final goal, it's the tool for redemption. It's not just about punishment for punishment's sake, it's about reform. It's through this refining process that Zion, Jerusalem, and those who turn back to God, her converts, are brought back to a state of righteousness. So that's one path. But what about those who refuse the refining process? Well, for anyone who rejects that call to repent, Isaiah paints a really stark and sobering alternative. To really get what happens next, we have to understand the imagery. When Isaiah mentions oaks and gardens, he is not talking about a nice day at the park. No, these were the sacred groves, the places where the people of Judah went to worship idols, hold impure ceremonies, and basically turn their backs on their covenant with God. And here is the profound, poetic justice of it all. In verse 30, Isaiah says that the unrepentant will become just like the symbols of their false worship. Think about that. They'll be like a dying oak tree with fading leaves, or a garden that has no water, totally cut off from the source of life, spiritually dead. And this all builds to the climax of the passage, where at the final, unavoidable consequence for those who keep going down that path of rebellion. And the imagery, believe me, gets even more intense. So to really get this final verse, you need to know this word, tow. It's not something we say every day, but it's basically the leftover coarse bits of flax fiber. Just think of it like a pile of bone-dry straw or kindling. It is incredibly, incredibly flammable. And that leads us to this final, chilling verse. The strong, those powerful corrupt leaders, will become as flammable as that pile of tow. And their maker, the very idols and corrupt systems they created, becomes the spark. The fuel and the ignition source burn together in a fire that Isaiah warns no one can put out. So when you boil it all down, this is the core takeaway. It's not just some external fire that comes out of nowhere. In a really profound way, the wicked actually become the fuel for their own destruction. Their actions, their sins, they're the spark that lights the whole thing up. And that leaves us with a deeply personal and pretty provocative question, doesn't it? This ancient prophecy kind of forces us to look in the mirror and ask, in our own lives, when we make choices that lead us away from what's right, are we, maybe without even realizing it, becoming the spark to our own flame?